All right, y'all. Let's give praise, esteem, and honor to the living Elohim, Yahuwah of hosts, in the name of his only son, Yahushua HaMashiach, this day. And get it, John chapter 5 and verse 39. So search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they which testify of me. You would not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you. You have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you, Abba. There's one that accused you, even Moses, of whom you trust. But had you believed Moses, you wouldn't believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my word? Don't look at me like, because I don't care to see such a disfigured countenance. Psalms 144. Shalom, man. What's wrong? Psalms 144 and 12. Yahuwah willing, we very well may return back and look at that part of the first part of Psalms 144 and 12, because that's important. We discussed it a tad, but not in detail. And Yahuwah willing, we probably will go back and do it in detail. That our sons, where we get, so rid me and deliver me from the hand of strange sons or children, whose mouth speak vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. That our sons may be as plants grown up in their youth, and that our daughters may be as cornerstones polished after the similitude of a palace. Let's take a look back at something that we were looking at in Proverbs 23, if you will. You know, praise the Lord, we still get to keep a work of Proverbs 23 on the play. I want you to come to Proverbs chapter 23. Make it Proverbs 23 and 12. I want you to look at the first thing that he says. Apply your heart unto instruction and your ears to the words of knowledge. So let me ask y'all this question right here. Who recalls what the Hebrew word is for instruction and the definition for it? Even if you don't remember the exact word, who can recall the definition for instruction without looking it up? No. Who can recall what it is? He say, apply your heart unto instruction. Now, I tell you what that word for apply means right here, which is to go in and enter. So, Lev, of course, is your heart. So he wants you to let instruction enter into your heart. Who can recall what that word for instruction means in Hebrew? The Hebrew word that's used. Does anyone recall the word musar? Does anyone recall that word? So if the Hebrew, if you recall the word musar, who recalls what it means? It means chastening. 99.9% of the time, when you see that word instruction in there, he's talking about discipline and chastening. This is what he's telling his son that he needs to apply his heart unto. I get you the definition for it again. Discipline, chastening, correction. The characters being mean, Samak, and Raj. So he's telling his son to let enter into his heart discipline and instruction, discipline and chastening. So the first thing when we look at it, if you come into being polished after the similitude, this go right back to what we were discussing last night. What did Mashiach tell you to do every single solitary day? And if you're taking up your statement, what is that instruction in that regard? That would be discipline. Let's take a look at son. Hebrews chapter 2. Actually, it's chapter 5. So when we look at that in the play, and again, we were looking at something last night as well. We was referring to the furnace of affliction, which is what? Chastity. So the first thing to be polished after that similitude, and if a man is going to be ahead of anything, he has to learn discipline has to be in his heart. If discipline is not in his heart, then there's no way that anything can function. Who can recall what were the two things that Yahuwah told Adam to do with that garden? What were those two things he was told to do with it? Dress it and keep it, which means he would have to labor and guard it. And to be able to labor and guard it, what would he need to have in his heart to be able to do? He would have to have discipline. It's impossible to do so. And if you have discipline, then what do you have? That too, but then you have order. Because where there's no discipline, there is no order. You know what I'm saying? And when you have no order, then you have chaos. And when you have chaos, Yahuwah is not present. Because Yahuwah is an Elohim of order. So there has to be order. And order cannot, not only, notice what he said, apply. So you have to let that enter in. Most individuals don't. See, discipline is not always popping somebody in the mouth or whooping them behind. It's correcting and showing that behavior is improper. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. You need to correct yourself. Matter of fact, I'll get it in a second. Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews 5 and 7. Who in the days of his flesh, when he offered up prayers and supplication with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared. And though he were a son, yet he learned obedience out of things which he suffered, and being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. Now, what did he tell you about correction in the book of Proverbs, about chapter 3? Same thing he told you in Deuteronomy chapter 8. What did he tell you? What did Yahuwah tell you in regards to chastity? Because the word for chastity is the same word we saw. And what did he tell you about it? Not only that, but he told you something else. He said, don't despise it. Don't despise discipline. When we look in this society at large, that's why I mentioned that about with the brother, because that's what I see. I'm not really worried about the women. I was more so glad to see that the men were desiring to say that this behavior is no longer acceptable to us. Those women despise that chastity that they were offering by saying it is not good for you to carry yourself in a shameless fashion. You know what I'm saying? One thing we know, because we all been living in Florida for the majority of our life, right? It's January right now. It's a little warm. What you think these women gonna do when May and June get around here? The hotter it gets, what seems to happen? The less clothes they wear. Where does that come from? Because somebody in the household didn't say, "Oh no, you can't walk around like this." Remember, what did we read in Ezekiel 36? What did Yahuwah tell you that you needed to be? Not in Ezekiel 36. He gave you an explicit instruction that you ought to be. After he told you that he did not do this for your sake, he did it for his set apart. He said it was something that you needed to do. Huh? He's something he told you. Matter of fact, Paul told you the same thing in Romans chapter 6 about the things that you were involved in that didn't have no profit. He told you to be ashamed. You know what happened? Remember what the prophet Jeremiah said? You have a horse forehead. You refuse to be ashamed. Let's get the definition of ashamed for horse that's mentioned in that verse real quick. It won't take me but a second. That's in verse 3 when it says you refuse to be ashamed. You have a horse forehead. That word is kalam. It says you refuse to be humiliated. You refuse to blush, to be dishonored, to insult, to exhibit shame. Now, what's a lot of the things with a lot of different topics that you hear people say, people doing fat shaming? You know what I'm saying? Like I was listening to this podcast, dude was referring to this fashion that Jillian Michaels said that Lizzo was unhealthy. If you don't know who that is, she's a celebrity personal trainer. And they told her that she was fat shaming because they told her that she was unhealthy, that she would get diabetes. And a real live ignoramus says, just because you're overweight don't mean you have to get diabetes. What world have you been living in? That's the world that you live in, that no one can be put to shame for behavior that is detrimental to themselves. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You know what I'm saying? How they call it gender shaming. If I say I'm a woman, but you're a man, you can use a man, cuz. What does that lead to? That leads to a generation of people who cannot be disciplined. If they can't be disciplined, then they can't be corrected. If they can't be corrected, then it's constant dysfunction. And with constant dysfunction is degradation and damnation. And that would occur. So I pulled up over here, and it was a sad part of the play. And I done mentioned to y'all this before, right? How many of y'all hear people say do it for the culture? How many times? How many of y'all even said it out your own mouth? What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Who can tell me what that means? What does that even mean? Do it for the culture. What does it mean? I done mentioned it to y'all before. Anytime anybody said do it for the culture, what things were they referring to? Things of no consequence. Music or television. That means you have no culture. You know what I'm saying? You have no culture. You have no culture whatsoever. The fact that we feel like music is our culture is a sad state of affairs for us. What culture can you get from hip hop? What culture did it provide? A culture gives you standards and living and discipline and guidance and correction. Rap music ain't gave you none of that. What did the NFL give you to say, well, that brother ran for them yards, he did it for the culture? That's sad. That's sad that that's what you look to and think that that's upholding a culture. I told a brother this a few weeks back. He said, black people got rich culture. We made this and we made that. I said, you too old for that because you almost 40. You really believe that? You really believe that? You really believe music and entertainment is culture? Oh, because you're going by popular definition. You know how they tell you if you go to New York, that's a cultured city because they got all the arts and this, that, and the third. That ain't no culture. That's programming. They program you how to think. They program you how to behave. Come on, man. Look at all of these women around here. Now they call themselves the stallion because of possibly training woman that kind of call herself the stallion. Now you a stallion. But before that, you was Nicki Minaj. And the generation before that, they were Lil Kim and Foxy Brown. That's programming. That's not a culture. That's programming. That means your parents done failed you. You know what I'm saying? That's what that means. Nevertheless, what was we at? Come to Job chapter 5. Then back to Proverbs. And then Psalms, matter of fact, Job 5 and then Psalms 97. Job 5 and 17. My apologies. Job 5 and 17. I think I'm on Psalm 97 about verse 5, if I'm not mistaken. But Job chapter 5, verse 17. It said, behold, Baruch is the man whom Elohim correct. Therefore, despise not you the chastening of the Almighty. So the first thing that he told you in Proverbs 23 was what? Let discipline enter into your heart. Remember, the word for layup, you got lamad and pot, so let the son teach you. So the first thing that you have to realize, in order to come after that similitude, you have to let Yahuwah teach you. Then, therefore, you can teach your household. Like we read about what Genesis 18 with Abraham. Let me ask you this question to see who recalls. Who called Abraham? Melchizedek called Abraham. How would Abraham know the way of Yahuwah if he lived with Terah? What was Terah? He was an idolater. Where was Abraham from? Ur Chaldees. So that means they worshiped idols there. That's what they did. That's another example of, so when he called Abraham out, what was he calling Abraham to be? To be set apart. I'm sanctifying you from amongst these people so you can be mine. See, that's another example of what we discussed 2 weeks ago. See, we be looking at, well, I got to leave this person behind. What you worried about it for? What you worried about it for? If he's severing you from amongst these people, that means he got something way, way greater than you. Greater for you than what's being left behind. We lack understanding in that regard. What did Yahushua tell you about the new wine and the old wine in the book of Luke? What did he say about that wine? He said you ain't gonna desire the new because you're gonna straight say the old was better. But when you look at it, was your old way of thinking and doing things, was it really better, or were you really just comfortable? See, to do anything great, you have to, two things are usually gonna come: separation and being uncomfortable. Most people shy from that because you want to be mediocre. You don't want to accept the challenge. You'd rather take the easy way out and then complain about how things in your life don't go the way you want it. Well, whose fault is that? You know what I'm saying? Whose fault is that? If you're going to be great, what did the angel tell Mary that Yahushua would be called in the book of Luke? What are one of the things adjectives that he said he used that said that Yahushua would be called? Y'all recall he told a few things, but one adjective in particular. He said he'd be called the Son of the Highest, and he said that he would be called one other thing. He said great. Now, when we sit back and we pause, look at the actions that necessitated Yahushua becoming great. Number one, he was placed in an uncomfortable position. How do we know that? Because he said he was exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death, and asked if it was possible to make the cup pass. So that means he was placed in an uncomfortable, that's just one uncomfortable position. Because we can name plenty of them. Then he had to be isolated. How was he isolated? Because what did all his disciples do? They left him alone. And let's move past just that situation. How many times did Yahushua separate himself from everyone and go off alone? So in order to be able to do things and be able to be great, you have to see, the average person, they can't understand that. One, because sometimes people don't communicate that. If you're trying to do something and you be like, hey man, I need time to work on this, the average person get mad because they feel like you're supposed to put to the side what you're working on to appease them. You know what I'm saying? And so and you have to tell them, hey man, I'm working. If somebody care about you and they want to see you succeed, and you tell them that, then they'll understand. If your husband look you in your face and say, hey, I'm finna get ready to really pour my focus and energy on that. The number one thing as a woman supposed to click in your mind is giving whatever support is necessary in order for him to achieve that objective. Not that we don't go on no date night, we don't do this. You're a selfish bastard. You're not invested in what he's trying to do for the family. You only care about yourself. Because if this man look you in your face and say, this is what I'm finna do, and I need to pour my energy in this for X amount of time, then your job as a woman and as a help me is to assist him in that endeavor. Not complain about what you ain't getting and what you're not doing. That means you don't care. That means that what he's building is not important to you. You feel like the attention that he's supposed to give you is going to divert from over that. And then when things don't go in that fashion financially, whatever you're trying to build it, then you're going to complain about that. No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. You can't do that. If the nigga ain't working on nothing, I guess that's a different story, but that's neither here nor there. Job 5:17 yet again. Behold, Baruch is the man who Elohim correct. Therefore despise not the chastening of the Almighty. For he makes sore and he bind up. He wound and his hands make whole. He shall deliver you in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch you. Now, of course, y'all should know what that ties to, correct? We're not going into detail. If he told you that you will be delivered from 6 troubles and 7 won't touch you, and what is that referring to? Who can recall? No, that ain't Proverbs 6. It is Proverbs 6. That's not what I'm looking for. Proverbs 6 all the 7 things, but that's not what I'm looking for. So that's half. That's what he just mentioned. That's half. Well, now he say, I will deliver you from 6 troubles, and the 7th no evil shall touch you. Proverbs chapter 6, y'all are half break. That's half. Because those are the 7. Matter of fact, the last evil is what? Well, not the last one, but one of them is shed innocent blood. But that's referring to that just man who fell 7 times. So what is that evil that's not touching you? Death. And why is death not touching you? Because what did we just read in Hebrews 5? You learned obedience. suffered and became the captain of salvation to all those that obey him. So we end up seeing that the seventh evil that won't touch you is death, because you allow discipline to enter into your heart. That's why he say, blessed is the man whom Yahuwah chasten, whom he correct. Because when he corrects you, this delivers you from death. Pause. I was talking to my brother about this last week. What is one of the prophecies that Yahuwah made to David about Solomon? Because of course we know he didn't say Solomon by name, but that prophecy was about Solomon. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Let me just ask this: who don't know what I'm talking about? I get it for those who don't know what I'm talking about. What it is? 2 Samuel chapter 13. Make sure I'm in the right spot on that. That's 2 Chronicles 13. I always say that. Yeah, I think that's 2 Yeah, it is 2 Samuel chapter. That's the chapter. They're not familiar, so it don't make no sense. It's better to read it to them because they're not familiar. 2 Samuel chapter 7. We pick it up at verse 1. Yeah, 3 people not knowing what it is enough to go read it. 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 1. And it came to pass when the king sat in his house, who had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, see, now I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of Elohim dwell within curtains. Nathan said to the king, go and do all that is in your heart, for Yahuwah is with you. It came to pass that night that the word of Yahuwah came unto Nathan, saying, go and tell my servant David, thus saith Yahuwah, that you build me a house for me to dwell in. Now we just set the standard that Nathan is the example, the stage that Nathan. He said, now therefore, so you say unto my servant David, thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, I took you from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler over my people, over Yasharal. And as I went with you wheresoever you went, and have cut off all your enemies out of your sight, and have made you a great name, like unto the name of great men that are in the earth. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Yasharal, and will plant them. They may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the sons of wickedness afflict them anymore as before time. That goes back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago in Ezekiel 38. Because right now, are people being afflicted by the sons of wickedness? What do we read in Psalms 144? What do they ask to be delivered from? Delivered by the right hand of the sons of falsehood, whose right hand is the right hand of vanity. Right now, you under the stewardship of wicked people. I'm listening to this here too as well, right? Which is something that we done discussed. You know, in the book of Lamentations, he said, you know, our people look for a nation that cannot save us. Every time something happens, as a whole, our people look to somebody else like, why y'all don't do nothing? Why y'all don't do nothing? Nobody looks to you, you look to the white people. You look to this Asian person. You look to this person. And you know what hasn't clicked in black people's head yet? They don't care nothing about you. They're not coming to save you. You know what I'm saying? And Yahuwah told you this a long time ago from the mouth of the prophet Jeremiah. He said, you're looking in vain for a nation that will not help you. They're not coming. They ain't never coming. They never will come. That's why you walk around and say, my black life matters. They say, it don't matter to us. And then you get upset because they tell you, your life don't matter to me. And you have to ask yourself, why would your life matter to them? And why do you care if it matters to them or not? That's what you have to ask yourself. Why do you care if your life matters to an Asian man? Why do you care if your life matters to an African man? Why do you care if your life matters to a white man? Why do you care? And if you can't answer yourself, why do you care? Then you know that you really just want their validation and acceptance because you don't love yourself. You don't feel like your level of respect and self-image is worthy enough for you to care about your life and not give two Londons what the people think about you. Period. You wouldn't care. Because you know what would happen? It's the same token. And when something happens, these people go to complaining, let's say in sports, instead of saying, just start your own league. How about you do that? You don't like them people doing this here and doing that now? Go start your own league. I do know the NFL is made up of 70% black players. You do know that, right? You know what I'm saying? I put it to you this way. This how it be so sad. Brothers in the sports group be like, man, y'all need to go to HBCUs. You don't control it. So why does that even matter? A black man going to an HBCU is no different than him going to Clemson, because the same person controls both universities. You don't control that. They do. They fund it. They just put a bucket in front of you and make you believe that it's yours. But it's not. See, a lot of black people don't want to hear that. Don't make you feel good because you want to believe that that's yours, but it's not. You don't have the wherewithal to say, I'll go start my own university. And we'll start our own football program. You know, the reason I mentioned this is dudes was clowning with our ball by the shoe company failing. You know how many times Walt Disney failed before now you pack your family up and go to Disney World? This man descendants living off something that he created. This man been dead for a long time and allegedly a pedophile. Long time. And he got Disney Worlds all over the place. People came out with Disney Plus, they lost their mind. That man did not become successful until he was almost 50. You know what I'm saying? White people don't say that nigga failed. White people don't look at their people and say, you got to strike on the first time. Mark Cuban said he had 7 businesses fail before he struck. Now he owned the Dallas Mavericks and is a billionaire. But he failed 7 times. You know why you don't look at it that way? Because everybody tell you that your business is not going to fail. When 95% of businesses fail within the first 3 years. The first 3 years. So because you have this high failure rate, most niggas scared. You know why they scared? Because you worry about what other niggas who ain't got the heart to even do anything for themselves gonna say. Or you worry about niggas gonna come and you successful. But that's just the nature of people. Just go ahead and build it. Them niggas will come. Once you build it, then you can set the order how things gonna run because you built it. They ain't gonna be able to come and dictate to you what the terms and conditions gonna be because I built it. So if you want to be a part of it, you have to do it like this here. You know what I'm saying? Black people don't have enough heart to do that. I think the NBA like 80% black. The reason why I mention that because they've been having stories about complaining. We ain't got enough black coaches. In the NFL, we need to redo the Rooney Rule. We need to redo this. Start your own league. Stop worrying about it. A white dude told this man straight up and down, you cannot tell somebody who to hire in their company. And he ain't lying. You think somebody can come tell you who you can hire? You think somebody can tell you who you can come hire? How would you feel there if somebody came and told you who you had to hire for something that you created, your own money, your own sweat equity? How would you feel? So why would you go to these white folks who got an NFL franchise and tell them who they're gonna hire and expect them to say, you know what, you little nigger, that's a good idea. Let me hire a couple of nigger GMs and a couple of nigger coaches. That's theirs. If you don't like it, start your own. That's the bottom line. But you know why you don't want to start your own? Because you don't feel like you'll be successful without them. See, you want to be on ES, you want to be on Sports Center. You want an article about you on Bleacher Report. You know what I'm saying? You can start your own Bleacher Report. Man, you got the internet now. You can do whatever you want. You don't need them people. You know what I'm saying? And then Brandon Hitt told me the other day, he said, bro, I can't start no business. You know, everybody ain't got it that easy. That's a lie from hell. You can do whatever you want to do. No, he was just saying that starting one ain't that easy. Yeah, you can start a business anytime you want. You don't start it because you're fearful. You know what I'm saying? It's fear why you don't start it. You fear of failure. You fear of what if this don't happen or what if it do happen? You can't be singing that song. You got a whole bunch to lose and nothing to gain. You got more to gain than what you got to lose because all you got is what you've been doing. And if that ain't been kicking your battery going, you might as well roll the dice and take a chance. You might just strike. And if you don't, you learn from it, you come back stronger the next time. Guess what? Colonel Sanders, some nigga ride past KFC all the time. That man didn't strike. He was 63 years old. That man had been trying to get people to buy that chicken for 40 years. Ain't nobody want that crap. I don't want none of it. Popeye, KFC, they all can keep it. I bet you do. You had to think about that. You have to think about that. You scared to fail. That's why. What if it don't work? What if it do? I ain't got this. Then figure it out. I told you this before. There's no such thing as a perfect launch, and you got to start before you're ready. And the only way you're gonna make some money is just to go. Figure it out as you go. I guarantee if you sit down with any person who's been successful in business, they tell you, I ain't know what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have this and I didn't have that. I went and found people who knew, and I just had the heart. And when things didn't go to how I wanted, I had the grit and the tenacity to keep on going. That's it. Ain't no magical recipe and all that. It just comes down to, and it's no different than the word. It's the heart to separate yourself from the world, and the grit and tenacity to endure through sufferings and tribulations. That's it. It's no different. And if you don't have that, you won't achieve anything greater. You won't be successful. And it takes time. And that's the thing that most people don't want. You want it right now. It takes time. You're not gonna hit overnight. You're not gonna hit overnight. You're not gonna have $100,000 in the first 6 months. That's a lie. Just stop believing them stupid niggas on the internet. Same way nigga tell you get in the word, bro. You're gonna be perfect overnight. No, you're not. You know what I'm saying? No, you're not. Because the word gonna start showing things in your heart that you ain't even know was there. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna start showing stuff about you ain't even know existed. And you have to get rid of that and get rid of that. And then you have to learn the one thing that 99.9% of none of us would taught, and that's to discipline your own behavior, thoughts, words, and actions. And understand, I can't do that. I can't do that. Because you have to weigh the ramifications of the choice. But nevertheless, let's continue. Verse 11. He said, and since that time I commanded judges to be over my people Yasharal, and cause you to rest from all your enemies. Also Yahuwah tell you that he will make you a house. And when your days be fulfilled, you shall sleep with your fathers, and I will set up a seed after you, which will proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the sons of men. Now let's just ask ourselves a question. What son is he referring to who built this house? Solomon built that house. Now let's just deal with this question right here. When was Solomon chastened with the rod of men? Did that happen to him? Let me read that again for you. He said, if he commit iniquity, I'll chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the sons of men. Did that happen to Solomon? Let me just ask you. Did Solomon commit iniquity? And if so, what kind? He went after other gods, right? So when did he turn around and chasten Solomon with the rod of men? But when did he say he would do that? When he was dead. When he was dead. He said, you won't see it. So then the question is, the answer is what? He never chastened him with the rod of men. And he never hit him with the stripes of men. So what does that tell us? He was talking about somebody else. Let's look at what he said he'll do to Solomon. 1 Kings 11. I just want y'all to be showing clear that you know what it say. That didn't happen to Solomon. Solomon was a man of peace. Nothing happened to Solomon upon his departure from this earth. Find out what it is where I want to start it at. Oh, I got to go further down. My apologies. About verse 34. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 34. Well, now he's talking to Jeroboam here. But I'll pick it up at verse 34. And then I'll deal with it. One day. Well, there you go. Come on back. Come on back. This is actually verse 9. Verse 9 is what I decided. 1 Kings 11 and 9. 1 Kings 11 and 9. And Yahuwah was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from Yahuwah, Elohim of Yasharal, which had appeared unto him twice. And he commanded him concerning this thing that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which Yahuwah commanded. Wherefore Yahuwah said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of you, and you have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely rend the kingdom from you and will give it to your servant. Notwithstanding, in your days, I will not do it for David your father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of your son. So according to the word of Yahuwah, was he chastened by men? No, he was not. So he's referring to someone else. Someone else received that discipline. Someone else received that correction. Come over here to what it was I mentioned. I don't even know. Psalms 97. No, Psalms 97 wasn't one. Psalms 97 is not one. Psalms 94, actually. Psalms 94 and 8. Psalms 94 and 8. Understand, you brutish among the people, and you fools, when will you be wise? He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see? He that chastised the heathen, shall he not correct? He that teach man knowledge, shall not he know? Yahuwah know the thoughts of man, that they are vanity. Blessed is the man whom Yahuwah chasten, O Yahuwah, and teach him out of your Torah, that you may give him rest from the days of adversity, until the pit be digged for the wicked. Now notice that he said man is blessed when he's chastened and then he's instructed out of the law. So you have to open your heart in that regard. This is one of the reasons why Yahushua repeatedly told them you need to take up your stake and follow him. Because you have to open up your heart to discipline and chastening and correction. Because it's going to cause you to do what? What Yahushua said about them gates. Who recalls what you can come back to Proverbs 23? What did the Lord tell you about them gates? In Matthew chapter 7. Straight is the gate and narrow is the way. So if something is tight, what does that mean? That means it's a disciplined way. It's not a lot, there's not room, like he said in Proverbs 4, don't deviate to the left hand nor to the right. There's not room in it to do what you want. That's why I mentioned that before, right? If you don't have a set of standard of conduct, guess what's going to happen in your household? There will be chaos because they're not going to know what to do and they're going to do whatever they want to do. And then you can't blame them, you have to blame yourself because that's what you did. That's what you did. If you didn't take the time to instruct and to set order and discipline, don't be upset when there's chaos. You know what I'm saying? Don't be upset when there's confusion and dysfunction because you have to set that. Just imagine if Yahuwah made the earth and didn't give no law. If you see he gave law and niggas is disobedient, dysfunctional, imagine how bad it would be if he didn't. Because then it wouldn't be nothing he could hold you accountable to. Because I didn't teach you nothing, I ain't give you nothing to keep. You know what I'm saying? We just taught the children about the flood, right? And what did he say? He flooded the earth because of what? It corrupted his way on the earth. That means you knew what it was, and you said, screw me. Now just imagine how bad it would have been if he didn't give them no way. Then they have to, what is the thing that it said in the book of Kings, in the book of Judges, that everybody did in the land of Yasharal? At the conclusion of the book of Judges, he said that they had a thought process. Does anyone recall what that thought process was? What was it? So there was no king in those days, so every man did what was right in his own eyes. So there was no order. You know what I'm saying? So when there's no order, then guess what you're going to seek out to do? Folly. How many of y'all people pretty much let y'all do what y'all wanted to do? And how did that work out for you decision-wise? That didn't work out well for you. And why do you feel like the most negative thing from that situation or circumstance for you was? Well, not just a child out of wedlock. You just saying that, basically you was saying that you didn't know that there were consequences for bad or negative choices, is what you're saying. That means you didn't have the foresight to see that this could occur if I did this. Because you had no order, so that means you had no sense of accountability. In essence, you would be a two-dimensional thinker. You couldn't think that far ahead. You couldn't see everything around an environment in a decision. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens when you allow someone to go along with their own devices. That's what happens. You know what I'm saying? As the old people like to say, you know, the idle's mind is the devil's workshop. You know what I'm saying? This is why when you look at ancient times, even 150, 200 years ago, A lot of the folly that women on now, they didn't have the chance to commit all that folly because they had order and structure on things that they had to do. They just weren't allowed to be free and do what they want to do. You give this woman time, as we read in 1 Timothy chapter 5, you give her freedom to do what she wants to do, and she's going to be a tattler, and she's going to be a busybody, and she's going to conduct herself in things that she has no business conducting herself in because she has nothing to govern her and rein her in. Do you know what I'm saying? You wonder why you have to set order in children early. You can't get like I'm frustrated. I'm tired of telling this nigga the same thing more than once. Well, how many times do you have to tell our people stuff more than once? So you need to get over that. At the end of the day, you just don't have the patience that comes with moderation. To be an administrator, you have to have patience because you very well may have to teach the people that you're administrating to the same thing several times. Huh, Nisha, in your classroom, you have to tell your kids the same thing several times. I'm talking about curriculum-wise. You know what I'm saying? You just can't be like, I taught it to you one time, y'all should get it. That's not how it works. That's not how that works. If you have that expectation, that's why you're going to get frustrated when you be like, well, I have to repeat myself. Well, guess what? You have to repeat yourself to someone who thinks as a child because their mind doesn't operate on a mature level. So they don't have the ability to grasp and understand and function to where you don't have to keep telling them the same thing over and over and over again. Their minds don't work in that capacity. A lot of dudes get upset because they feel like they got to tell their old lady things several times. You know what I'm saying? But as we done talked about before, if you got to tell your old lady something several times, I guarantee you would have had to tell you something several times too, and you told not to listen. Now you mad with her because you really see a reflection of yourself, because your woman is a reflection of you. How she conducts herself is a strong indicator of how you conduct yourself. If she disorderly, there's a strong chance you are too. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't giving no order. If you gave her some order and she disorderly, then you know you got a rebellious woman, and you have. We in verse 12, right? Then he say, and apply your ears or let your ears enter into knowledge or to hear the word. Unstable connection. What isn't that for? Hopefully that's not messing up on y'all end. I'm trying to see right now. I don't know how long that's going to stay that way. Okay, we good to go. Proverbs 23 and 13. Listen what he say, right? Withhold not correction from the child, and if you beat him with the rod, he shall not die. Well, we already see, what did he say? He'll chasten his son with what? The rod of men, right? So let's go back to Hebrews chapter 12. I didn't think I was going to need to use it, but clearly we will. Hebrews 12 and 5. You know, as a man, you also always have to remember that you set the standard. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that, the most thing that most men had to realize is that, especially, and I'm not talking about people outside your household, like if people don't want to correct themselves, and you have to be willing to say, well, that's you then. You just don't fool with them. It's not hard. You just don't fool with them. You don't spend your time overly trying to convince somebody to conduct themselves in a fashion that will be beneficial and positive to them. That's your pen and leave them alone. It's not hard. Okay, you feel like you want to be a whore? Then you be a whore, and you ain't hurting me. What did we talk to the children? If a woman's being a whore, is she hurting you or is she hurting herself? She hurting herself. If this man want to smoke crack, is he hurting you or is he hurting himself? You can't get frustrated why you don't want to say yourself. Oh shoot, I'm not concerned with it. Clearly, that's not important to him. So carry on with your life. You want to injure and hurt yourself? Just be willing to deal with the consequences that come from that decision. He said that this is Hebrews 12 and 5. And you have forgotten the exhortation to speak unto you as son to son. My son, despise not you the chastening of Yahuwah, nor faint when you are rebuking him. Whom Yahuwah love, he chastened and scourged. Every son whom he received, it deal with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the father chastens not? So again, I want you to come back to Psalm 144, and we want to get that word for polish real quick again. I know we talked about it last week a little bit, but we want to get that word for polish one more time. Now that word is top, right? It means to cut or to carve, right? And I think that was kat, tet, and pot. So when you look at, he wants you to be cut after the similitude of a palace. So that takes us back. What happened to Hamashiach? Let's look at Job 13. Because he said that when you deal with chastening, then he'll deal with you as a son. He said beat him with the rod, and he what? He won't die. So the key thing when you're dealing with coming after that similitude is the ability to allow discipline to enter into your heart. Job 13 and 23. Sure. Job 13 and 22. Make it 20. Job 13 and 19, actually. Job 13 and 19. Job 13 and 19. He said, who is he that will plead with me? For now, if I hold my tongue, I shall give up. So, we read last night, right? In Micah chapter 6. What did Yahuwah ask Yasharal to do against him? He stepped to Yasharal and he said he would do what? He would plead with them, right? He said, testify against me where I have wearied you. Now, this is Job talking. Job says, who is he that will plead with me? I will, if I hold my tongue, I'll give up the ruach. Who pleaded with the Lord? Let's look and see. Do we need to look and see who pleaded with the Lord? And if there is somebody, huh? No, I'm talking about with Yahushua. Who pleaded with him? This is what he said, right? Who is he that will plead with me? For now, if I hold my tongue, I'll give up the ghost. Who pleaded with him? No. I tell you right now, remember, plead here, who will contend with me? That word for ghost is gaba, which is to die or to perish, to give up the ghost guilt, which is clear. That word gaba is kamal, u, and ayin, if you will. So he say, who will contend with me? He say he will die. Who is he that contends with me? So what does it actually say? Who will contend, karash the tongue, which is to cut in, to devise, to be silent, to be dumb, to be speechless. So he say, who will contend, for I will be speechless and die. Now again, think for die, it's gamal, u, and ayin. So what does that tell you? So if you know to die, you know you're experiencing the and being secure to this message, or you experience the sacrifice of this message. But who contended with? Well, let's look and see. Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26, verse 57. From there, John chapter 18, I believe, 19, 1 or 2. He said, and they laid hold, this is Matthew chapter 26, verse 57. And they that lay hold on Yahushua led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled. But Peter followed after him afar off into the high priest's palace and went in and sat with the servants to see the end. Now the chief priests and the elders and all the council saw false witnesses against Yahushua to put him to death, but found none. And yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. And the last came two false witnesses and said, this fellow said, I'm able to destroy the temple of Elohim and build it in 3 days. And the high priest arose and said unto him, answer you nothing? What is it which these witness against you? But Yahushua held his shalom. Now, let me ask you this here. Did they try to contend with him while he was actually being crucified? And if so, what did they say? And what did he do? He ain't say nothing. So what does that give you? Now, why would he do this? Because he had already been instructed to do this. Do you know the discipline it takes to not contend with somebody? To be speechless? You know that's in Psalms 38 and 39. When he said, I was dumb because you did. You didn't say nothing. See, a lot of brothers don't know how to do that. Who else did that? Who else somebody came to contend with him? He remained speechless. Quite a few people who did it. When Saul came at David, did David sit back and try to defend himself and go back and forth with this man? No, he did not. Did Jacob try to do that with Laban when Laban came with that foolishness? No, he did not. See, that's when you allow discipline to enter into your heart. Now you have correction, you have order, you have structure, you know how to conduct yourself. Let's ask you this question right here. How many times has Yahuwah stepped up just because somebody ran him? Because they done said something about him. You know how many times Yahuwah would have to jump off his throne? Oh, this nigga said I ain't real. This nigga said, he got no time for that. I'll show you when it's time. I know who I am and what I'm. I don't care nothing about you. Who are you? Especially when you know you ain't getting nothing. Especially know when your works is righteous. That's what we were talking about with the women in that regard. What you going back and forth with this man for? If you were fearful and chaste in your conduct would condemn it. You don't need to be going back and forth with no man. You don't need to open your mouth. If you was focusing on what you're supposed to do versus what he's doing, and he looked like the damn fool. He'd have no choice to repent. But when you want to open your mouth and go back and forth, you've justified him and brought folly upon your own head. See, that's what discipline do. That's what order do. See, most young women know that if their daddy taught them something. But since your daddy ain't taught you nothing, then you can't be able to learn that and function in that capacity. But nevertheless, John chapter 19. Which verse do I care to use? 28 is sufficient. From John 19 and 28 to Luke chapter 24, 23. And about 40. After this, Yahushua, knowing that all things were now accomplished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, say, I thirst. Now that there was a set vessel full of vinegar, they filled a sponge with vinegar and put it upon his side to put it in his mouth. When Yahushua therefore had received the finger and he said, it is finished, he bowed his head and gave up the ruach. So he died. But before he died, when they sought to contend with him, what was he? Speechless. What did the Lord tell you that he told you that you should not set in your heart to do when people come against you? He said, don't settle in your heart what you should say or what you should speak. He said, for I'll give you what you should say and what you should speak in that very hour. You don't have to say nothing. You don't have to do nothing. See, that's the nature of man, because man wants to, I got to defend myself. Humility of men, that's what most men feel. Somebody attacked me, I have to defend myself. See, it's a double-edged sword. Because you can defend yourself in certain situations and make yourself look bad, or you can look bad. But I'm gonna just follow the pattern of the Lord. For the most part, if they're accusing you of committing transgression against Yahuwah and you know you ain't committed it, go ahead and just let Yahuwah justify it. Ain't no need. And you know why Yahushua was able to do that? Because I'm not focused on about what you're doing. I'm focused on what I'm doing. I can't worry about what you're doing and what you're not doing. I know what my daddy told me to do. He told me to be quiet. He told me to take this chastisement and I'll be blessed. He told me not to despise it, and he'll deliver me from 6 troubles. And the 7th, no evil gonna touch me. That's what he told me, so I ain't worried about you. See, when you have that level of faith, you understand that. That's how you can conform to that image, and then you can be able to dictate that in your own household. You teach your household to do the same. Now, I told you before I got in the word, I knew one thing. I knew that women were attracted to intelligent men who had knowledge and wisdom. I seen that at a young age. Don't no woman with no half a brain want no dumb man. That doesn't seem cute when you're young. You know what I'm saying? But that ain't gonna cut her for it if she's mature. You know what I'm saying? If because she already know this nigga can't do nothing for me. If this nigga can't think his way out of a paper bag, he can't do nothing for me. He just good for me to play with his penis for now. Go on a couple dates, take a few pictures, and be cute. I don't want to have no kid with him. I don't want to live with him for the rest of my life. He's an idiot. You know what I'm saying? And dudes don't be looking at it in the same way, looking for wrong thing, because you don't think that far ahead. Like I said, if people allow you to do what you want to do, and you have no concept of accountability, you have no concept of foresight. You can't see no further than the tip of your nose. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna do you no good. That's how you end up making bad choices. Like I say, when I started selling dope, I had plenty foresight. I know how this going to end. I wouldn't like I heard a nigga say, he ain't had no choice. What you mean? He always got a choice. That's the one thing I cannot stand for any grown person, especially a man, to say out his mouth, he ain't had no choice. You had a choice. You may have had limited options, but you had an option. You had an option. You chose the option that you wanted to choose. You may have chose a negative option that you felt like was the best option at the time. You had an option. You know what I'm saying? I already knew this is not the best option, but I'm willing to roll the dice and take that risk. So it is what it is. We could get murked. I said, I know I ain't gonna start smoking no dope. So I ain't worried about that. That's not a risk factor for me. I'm not a junkie. I'm not a druggie. I don't have a desire to get high. I'm either gonna get killed or I'm gonna go to prison. And I felt like the risk was worth the reward. I sat back and thought it out. Thought it out long before I picked up and told my homeboy, take me around the Drew and give me some work. That guy rolled by Drew house the other day. Drew dead now. Died about a year or so. You know what I'm saying? But that's it. Take me around there to Drew, man. Took that last check from Dairy Queen. It was $47. It was about $45. You know what I'm saying? Had me some change. Took the five and bought a nick, bought a blunt, and bought 4 bucks, and it was only profit from there. It's time to roll. We go to prison. Oh well, I'm gonna go do this bid then. They were $10 a piece. You sell them for 20. I mean, only had $45. I just told you I took my last check. I just told you I had some bloody shit. I did a nickel bag, bought me a blunt, bought 4 rocks, made 80. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, boom. I wasn't at the point where I'm like, I can have a lot of inventory on me. I ain't did it, so I wasn't that confident to do that. So I bought like 4 more. And then my homeboy at that time was like, bro, I'm tired of you calling me. So I'm just gonna give you these 20, and you just give me my $200 back. Then after that, I'm like, shoot, I got a lot of dope repairs. You know what I'm saying? Then when I stopped selling dope and came back, my homeboy gave me 4 rocks. I did like 44, 5 rocks. And at that point, okay, I made $100. I took 10 to the side, nickel bag, black and mild, blunt, 9 rocks. Make 180, nickel bag, was a dime bag, you know what I'm saying? Pull out this here, I got 160. After that, 1/4 ounce of cocaine. Then we back on in a week because I'm going to put all the money back into the hustle. What am I holding it for? Put it back into the business. You make the money back quicker. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're dealing with something that you're dealing with a product, you know what I'm saying? Get more product. So we went from 4 rocks to 7 days later, 4.5 ounces of cocaine because, yeah, we out here and I'm going to put it back in here. Take the profit, put it back. Take the profit, put it back. You know what I'm saying? But it's a thought process of how you look at life. I knew what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? So did I have an option? Yeah, I could have suffered and say, hey, I'll find a job eventually. But I felt like at that particular time, the risk and reward factor for that option was not sufficient for me. Nevertheless, you had to look at that. All y'all knew you had choices, and anything you ever did that was deleterious to you, you know you had a choice. Luke chapter 23. And 39. And the biggest thing is to be able to do that is to have a level of self-awareness. I mean, I would listen to the video where they're talking about, y'all familiar with that dude, Brian Banks? Y'all know who that is? He just had a movie came out not too long ago. Brian Banks was a football player from Long Beach. He got falsely accused of rape and did 5 years in prison. You know what I'm saying? Lost his chance. Well, when he did get out of prison, they did give him a tryout with the Seahawks, and then he got a job with the NFL and then instead of the third part. Listen to him do an interview. You know that this man did not blame that woman, even though she was dead wrong for him going to prison. He blamed himself for putting himself in position for allowing that woman to accuse him of rape, for him to go to prison for 5 years. Understandably so. If he would have blamed her and been upset with her, the average person, I can understand. But what did he do? He looked at what did my behavior do to place me in this situation for this to occur. Yeah, this nigga's wrong, but could I have stopped that from? See, most people don't have that level of self-awareness to know the role that they played in putting themselves in negative situations. That doesn't make the offender justified. The reason why you do that is it allows you, if you ever face a situation and circumstance of that sort ever again, or not even just that type of situation, But when you make decisions to think, what choice can I make to not allow me to be placed in a situation where something negative can occur? Because you're looking at what you can do to contribute to positivity versus destruction. Or what you can do to avoid being in situations and circumstances where someone can do something to you. That's no. Don't look at, well, my husband or my wife don't do this or do this. But what do you do that contributes to that situation and circumstance? And what can you amend to cause that not to happen, at least on your part? That's self-awareness. Being aware of what you're doing and how you contribute to situations. Because at the end of the day, when if you face with somebody, what did he tell you in Proverbs, right? He say, my son, if sinners entice you, what he told you not to do? Consent not. So you have to have the level of self-awareness to understand what these people are trying to entice you with and why they're trying to entice you. You can't be a simpleton and be like, that's my mama, that's my daddy, that's my sister, that's my brother, that's my friends, that's my job. You can't think that way. You have to be self-aware. If you're not self-aware, then how are you going to ever expect to mature if everything is everybody else's fault or you're moved and dictated by what other people say and do? Or when things happen that don't go the way that you desired to go, that you don't look at yourself first. What did I do? What part did I play in this going in this direction? That's self-awareness. That's self-accountability. It doesn't even matter if you're wrong. You don't even have to be wrong. It's just the fact that you're looking at yourself. What role did I play? It's easier to say that person's fault. It's easier to do that because then you don't have to look at yourself. You don't have to correct yourself. This is what happens when you allow correction to enter into your heart. You're going to be self-aware. You're going to police yourself. Because at the end of the day, can't nobody police you but you. Luke chapter 23, verse 39. And one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, if you be Hamashiach, save yourself. But the other answering, rebuked him, saying, do you not fear Elohim, seeing you are in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man have done nothing amiss. And he said unto Yahushua, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Yahushua said unto him, truly I say unto you, today you shall be with me in paradise. And it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And when Yahushua cried with a loud voice, he said, Abba, into your hands I commend my ruach. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. No, he ain't content. Let me remain speechless and let me perish and be joined to my power. Back to Job 13. Excuse me. 13 and 20. I got to crank this up because this is still a part of the game I need to hit. And y'all willing, I got to hit it. He said, Job 13 and 20. Only do not two things unto me, and I will not hide myself from you. Withdraw your hand far from me, and let not my dread make me afraid. How did that happen with the Lord? These are two things that Job is asking not to happen in the midst when he said, who will contend with me that I'll be speechless and I die? Look what he asked him, don't withdraw your hand far from me. What did the Lord say on the stake? Elohim, you have forsaken me. But Yahuwah hadn't withdrawn himself from him. He just felt that way. Remember what David said in that regard? He said, I said in my haste that Yahuwah has forsaken me. Then the next thing he said is, and let not my dread make me afraid. And that's when you go when Yahushua say he was exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. There was no fear. Let's continue. Then call you answer, or let me speak and answer you me. How many are my iniquities and sins? Make me to know my transgression and my sin. We already know there was no sin against the Lord. He committed no sin. He took on your sins. Remember, we talked about that about a week or so ago as well, how he was humiliated. How he was humiliated. He was not humiliated for his own sake. He was humiliated for your sake. Remember what we was looking at? He said, if a man for love would give up his whole house, it would be utterly contempt. So when you look at this, this is why this man say you're supposed to love your house, meaning your wife or your kids, in that same fashion. And when we look at all the things that the Lord did, what's one of the things he did? He taught his wife. He disciplined his wife. He showed mercy and compassion to his wife. And he laid his life down for her. These are the things that he did. This is dwelling with her according to knowledge. You know what I'm saying? This is what you're supposed to do. These are not even difficult concepts for us to understand. It's just that rules don't care. That goes back to what we were talking about before. He that rule amongst men, he got to be just. You know what I'm saying? Those things would be easier for us to do if we were taught these things childhood. If we were taught these things from childhood, things would be a lot smoother and a lot easier. Let's continue. He said, wherefore hide you my face and hold me for your enemy? Will you break a leaf driven to and fro? Will you pursue the dry stubble? For you write bitter things against me and make me to possess the iniquities of my youth. That takes us back to who? Adam. We looked at him last night. Now, Yahushua got to possess the iniquities of his youth. And what is that lawlessness? It was death. And why was it death? Because you choose not to listen. Because at the end of the day, Adam not listening did not hurt Yahuwah. It hurted him. Eve not listening did not hurt Yahuwah. It hurt her. Because at the end, what did we read Paul say? The transgression was with Eve because she rebelled. You were told something, you did what you wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? But does the book tell you a woman who lives in pleasure is what? She dead while she lives. And that's why a man is supposed to moderate that woman, because if you leave that woman to free time, she's going to seek pleasure. She's going to seek fun and games. You know what I'm saying? That's what she's going to seek after. And then niggas get mad when she do it. What nigga, did you teach her anything? Did you put anything in place? Was there anything to go to where she knew if she stepped out this boundary that she gonna be pushed back in? Because if not, that's your fault. It's not her fault, that's your fault. That's what key point. Why you see that he didn't say Adam was wrong. Did he say Adam was in rebellion, or did he say that woman was in rebellion? Why? Because that woman had been given that order or that boundary. And what did she choose to do? Go outside of it. So that's why she can be blamed. Now, if Adam would have sat down and taught her, then the transgression would have been with who? It would have been with Adam. Because you didn't tell her. So since you didn't teach her and you didn't tell her, I can't blame her for that. If you don't tell your children, don't do this and don't do that, and you whoop them turn for it, that's on you. Because how was they supposed to know? If you told them, son, don't climb up top of the refrigerator and jump off. See, it's one thing that children, they explore. So they're not going to say this. And I just use that example. The little monkey used to climb up and try to get cereal off the top of the refrigerator or pour her own bowl. Now, she's never been told not to do that. Now, what is Paul writing in this letter? Where there is no law, there's not what? There's no sin, there's no transgression. So how can I come at this child and rebuke her for something that she had never been told was exceeding the boundaries of proper conduct? Who does that fall on? Does it fall on this 3-year-old child, or does it fall on me? It falls on me. She wasn't instructed to that. But if I tell her, don't climb up here and get the cereal, which I did, call for me, and then I will help you or watch you or supervise you so you can get your own box, so you can pour your own bowl, that's fine. Now, if she go up and do that without calling for me to supervise her, now that falls on her, and the justification for discipline is now justified. You know what I'm saying? But if not, that fall on me. She didn't know no better. I hadn't told her, but I'm just using son as an extreme because that's random. Son, don't climb up on top of the refrigerator. Also, you have to have also understood she's mimicking me. That's what she's doing. I've watched him grab this and do this. I want to be like him. So I'm going to go up here and do this for myself because I look up to him. I admire him. I want to do what he's doing. How can you chastise a child for trying to be like you? You know what I'm saying? Now you're going to beat or remove any likelihood that they would mimic you if you have positive traits and things to extend unto them because you beat that out of them. Because you didn't have the foresight, the 3-dimensional thought process to understand why that child was doing that. You know what I'm saying? You can't sit back and be like, what are you doing? And all that. It means you're emotional. You can't, you don't think that far ahead. Children mimic what they see. They see you do certain things, they're going to do. That's what the dude was talking about in the video. The first role model, the only role model a child should have is their parents. Period. You know what I'm saying? Not no athlete, not no entertainer. You know what I'm saying? None of that. Your role model, a child's role model should be their parents. They should look up to you and want to be like you. And if you know right now in this case, if you ask yourself deep down in your soul, if you want your son to be like you, and you have to think about it or say no, you need to change yourself. That means it's something you need to do. And if you look at yourself and say, if your daughter, you want your daughter to be like you, and you say no, instead of coming up, tighten up then. change your behavior, change your thought process. Because you they role model. They looking at you. They want to be like you. That's why the nigga asked to wash the dishes. They looking at you. I want to do what you do. They ain't just trying to be out this here. I see you. I want to be like you. You encourage. Come on over here. Let me show you how to do it. I got to tell you, my granddaddy had me doing stuff as a young man. I didn't even want to do it. I ain't saying, oh, that nigga cutting the grass. I want to cut the grass too. And he's like, nah, you finna go cut it though. After a while, you get to a point, he's pleased. Now you want to do it because the desire is to see him pleased. That's why he said, this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. Why? Because Yahweh was pleased to do his father's will. So when he seen his father was pleased, it made the father pleased, which makes the son to be more emboldened to follow in his footsteps. I would wager most of y'all want your children to follow in your footsteps, would you not? Why would you want your son or daughter to follow in anybody else's footsteps? Ask yourself, why does that make sense? And why do we live in a society that promotes that? For your child to want to be like someone other than you. You're the person who spends the most time with them. Why would you want your son to be like any other man other than you? That don't make sense to me. Never did. Even before knowing anything about the world. I want my son to be like this nigga who we don't know. Nigga, I don't know Adrian Peterson. I don't know LeBron James. I don't know what this nigga about. And I'm going to tell my son, be like him, son. He jump and run fast. It's asinine. That means you saying your ability as a man is not sufficient enough for your son to desire to replicate and imitate you. And that's why we have no business following other gods, because your desire should be to replicate and imitate your Father, which is in heaven. Let's continue. Verse 27. You put my feet also in stocks and look narrowly unto all my paths. You set a print upon the heels of my feet. So we see that nail. The cutting. Because that's what it said, that they got to be polished or cut like the temple, where the temple was at. He was cut with the nail, or the nail cut him. And what did the nail cut him for? So that he wouldn't die, i.e. that we wouldn't die. So if you don't want your household to perish, you have to follow that same pattern that the Lord did, like we mentioned last night. You have to be willing to serve. See, a man serving a woman is not the same as a woman serving you. You're supposed to serve her with knowledge, wisdom, understanding, instruction, guidance, discipline. That's what you're supposed to serve her with. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're supposed to serve her with. If you're not doing that, and then she doesn't function in that capacity, that's your fault. If your sons don't do that, that's your fault. Nevertheless, Proverbs chapter 23. Praise your Lord, man. Praise your Lord. In verse 14 of Proverbs 23. He said, you shall beat him with the rod, he shall deliver his soul from hell. My son, if your heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine. Yea, my reign shall rejoice when your lips speak right things. Let not your heart envy sinners, but be you in the fear of Yahuwah all the day long. For surely there's an end, and your expectation shall not be cut off. Look what he's telling you. He's telling you your hope and expectation won't be cut off if you can be disciplined and corrected, if you allow that to enter your heart. But let's continue, because that's not what we all here for. This is the next thing he takes. Hear you, son, my son, and be wise. Guide your heart in the way. Be not among wine bibbers and among riotous eaters of flesh. Does anybody remember what that Hebrew word for glutton means? Anybody recall that? Because it don't mean what you think glutton means. It's definitely not the definition for glutton. Why y'all thinking about that? The Hebrew word for guide is a sharp. It's to go straight, to set right. Aleph, Shan, and Rod. So we look at this as how we have the fellowship with the power of the highest, right? Now, what did we did mention earlier about Matthew chapter 7? He said, broad is the way and wide is the gate that lead to destruction. So what does that tell us? That if the whole world is going over here, that's why we use that example with King. King, stand over here. Because now you separate from them. And all of them are going in the broad way. But you over here in the straight path. You set apart from them. See, to be set apart, some people feel like, you know how some people, you'll see some people online just walk lonely and all that there. Man, everybody want to hear all that. Nobody hear all that. Because you ain't even going through nothing. Elijah was lonely because he had people trying to kill him. Ain't nobody trying to kill you. Don't get me wrong now. It's good to have people to fellowship with. Don't get me wrong. That just be somebody whining and complaining. 9 times out of 10, don't want to do nothing. Some people, it's hard for them to conduct themselves singularly, and I can understand that. But look what he tells his son to do, right? Here, my son, be wise, guide your heart in the way. So that means you need to set your heart straight in the way of Kadash. And you need to hear the word. Believe it, follow it. Look at the next thing he stated, right? A glutton. A glutton is somebody who is worthless and insignificant and vile. That word is a law. That's what it means. You're an insignificant individual. Remember what we read along, and we went over this word a while back. Remember what he told you in Samuel? He said, whosoever esteems you, who shall be honored, but he that despises them shall be lightly esteemed. You'll be insignificant. What name means worthless? Huh? Belial. And what did Paul tell you? That the sons of Mashiach ain't got no fellowship with Belial. Isn't that what he told you? He said he got no fellowship with Belial. What's another word that means worthless or rejected or insignificant? It's mentioned in Romans chapter 1, and it's mentioned in Jeremiah chapter 6. Reprobate. What it causes you to become reprobate? Y'all know what causes you, according to the epistle of Paul, well, even Jeremiah 6, what causes you to be reprobate? They say because you don't like to retain Elohim in your knowledge. He said he give you over to do those things that are convenient. Jeremiah said you were rejected still, reprobate still. He said you've been rejected. What got Esau rejected? Because he was profane. Because he despised his birthright. That got him rejected. It wasn't no crying gonna get him back. See, just like that's what they be doing. You done did something wrong. You think you can get some repentance with all them tears. Ain't nobody moved with all them tears. I don't care nothing about them tears. Them tears ain't gonna get this correction up off of you. This ain't gonna get this discipline off of you. That's how people feel. Of course, most young women, y'all learned that early, especially if your daddy wasn't that strong of a dude, you go to crying, oh, come here, baby, it's okay. And guess what you begin to learn just from that? If I start being emotional and start crying, I probably give away. Or probably yield to me. That's what that teaches a lot of young women. You people like to say, you can't, man, I don't care nothing about you crying. You still finna catch this cut. You still finna catch it. I don't care how old you are. Now, I'm not saying all women like that's where a lot of women learn that from. Because you can see that little girl start crying, people melt. Oh, don't cry, baby. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. Here you go. All that tells her is that she can have an emotional connection and she can get what she wants. That's all she learned. She ain't learned nothing else. You know what I'm saying? She ain't learned nothing else. She just learned that I can cry my way out of consequences. You know what I'm saying? Can't cry your way out of consequences. Not with Yahuwah. Maybe with man. Definitely not with Yahuwah. You can't cry your way out of consequences. Esau with boo-hoo crying what? You know, blessing for me, daddy. No, ain't nothing. We got not one. No, I ain't got nothing. Well, I don't say this. He said, I got one for you. Yahuwah. I give you a blessing. Who ain't got nothing? Ain't got nothing for you. That's the difference. That's the difference with wisdom. You have to have wisdom to give wisdom. If you don't have wisdom, it would behoove you to attain it. Because you can't give what you don't got. Now that word's the law is to be cut off by the discipline of the shepherd. So when somebody's worthless and insignificant, then guess what? We already went over that a couple weeks ago. Guess what's gonna happen? Yahushua coming through with that sword. Let me get you out of here. And that was Zayn, Lamar, and double Lamar. Let me get you out of here. Let me go ahead and get you out of here. Now, when we look at wine bibber, that's somebody who likes to be a drunkard. That's Samach, Ba, and Olive. And we just look at that the strength of that sharp and piercing shield of Yahushua. Now, that's going to get us to something in a minute with this wine bibber. So just bear with us. And look at verse 21. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe the man with rags. That word for drowsiness is numah, and it means to be drowsy or indolence, which is extreme laziness, or somnolence, which is extreme sleepiness. Now you got noon, meme, and hate, and I'll let you put something together for that. Noon, Ooh, mean, and hate. Now look what he said. A drunkard and an insignificant man, they come into poverty. And that drowsiness is going to clothe this man with rags. Now that word for poverty is yarash, and it means to dispossess, to disinherit. So if you disinherit it, what it means have happened, you reject it, right? That's what happened to Esau, wasn't it? Rejecting. So when you want to be a drunkard, you want to be a glutton, you get rejected. Because let me do this like this here. In Revelation chapter 20, he said, he that overcome, what did he say after that? I believe this is Revelation 20. Huh? He said, he that overcometh, he said he will inherit all things. He said, he shall be my son, and I shall be his Elohim. So when you overcome, you will inherit everything. So clearly, if you're a drunkard or a glutton, what have you not done? You ain't overcame nothing. So therefore, Yahuwah will disinherit you. And why would you be disinherited? Because you didn't want to be polished or cut after the likeness of the house. You didn't want to be made according to the framework of that house. Remember what he told Moses in the law? Make it according to the pattern you've seen in the mountain. Don't make it according to your pattern. Don't do it how you think it should be done. Do it how I said to do it. You know, our lives would be a lot easier if we just do things to how Yah said to do it. Just do it how he said do it. I guarantee it'll be better for you. What y'all got for that? Anybody got anything for that drowsiness, Numa, that new meme and hate? Mm-hmm. You can roll with it. Anybody else? About the same thing. So if you're not, if you like this here, right? Let's look at what Paul said in Romans 12 then. From Romans 12, and then I believe in what is it? Galatians 5, is it? What is it? What is it? That's Romans 13, my correction. Romans 13 and 10. Romans 13 and 10. Love work no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of Torah. And that knowing that the time that now is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than we believe. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Now the Lord made a statement, right? He said, I'm the light of the world. He said, but when he leave the world, the night comes, a man can't do what? Work. And if you ain't working, then what you doing? You're sleeping. Why would you be sleeping? Because what were these men? They were gluttons and they were drunkards. They were insignificant and they drunk from the wrong cup. Now let's take a look at again what is Galatians chapter 5. They were vile men. You don't want to go out like that. It's Ephesians 5 that I want. Ephesians 5 and 10. Ephesians 5 and 10. Proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever do make manifest is light. Wherefore he say, awake you that sleep, and arise from the dead, and the Mashiach shall give you life. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Therefore be you not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. So when these men are coming to poverty being disinherited, it's because they don't understand what the will of Yahuwah is. Because they're more concerned, if you're violent and insignificant, you're more concerned about fulfilling your own will, fulfilling your own desires. Back to Proverbs 23. Verse 22 is where we at. Keep that in mind again with the wine bibber. Keep that in mind with the wine bibber. Hearken unto your father that begat you, and despise not your mother when she is old. Let's get to 1 John chapter 5. He say you need to listen to your father that birthed you. 1 John 5 and 1. Now, remember in Isaiah chapter 9, didn't it say that he shall be called Almighty Father? And that's what he told you. And if you're born of Elohim, or you're born of Yahushua, then guess what that would make him? Your father. That's why he your head. Because the head of any young man is going to be who? His father. Who birthed him? You born a Mashiach, then that's your daddy. You born from him. That means you have to give him the honor and respect that's due to your father, like you're supposed to. Ain't the law say honor your father and mother? That's the end of that. You born of Elohim, you honor your father and mother. Period. Whosoever believes that Yahushua is a Mashiach is born of Elohim. Everyone that love him, that begat, love him. Also, that is begotten, love him. By this we know that we love the sons of Elohim, when we love Elohim and keep his commandments. For this is the love of Elohim, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. For whatsoever is born of Elohim overcome the world, and this is the victory that overcome the world, even our faith. Notice that if you believe that Yahushua is the anointed one of Elohim, and you're born of the person who birthed him. Now, what did we read in Proverbs 23? He told you to hearken or listen to your father that birthed you. And what did he say? This is the love of Elohim, that you what? Keep his commandments. How can you say you love your father and you don't listen to him? Now, we're going to look at something that's a commandment of Elohim that every man needs to follow. Let's go back to Proverbs chapter 23. We'll look at verse 23. We're not going to go into it because we've already done that. Proverbs 23 and 23 is why we're going through the book of Proverbs, how we have been for the last few months to begin with. Buy the truth and sell it not. Also wisdom, instruction, and understanding. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice. He that beget a wise child shall have joy of him. Now pause. What can we look at in the book of Luke that shows you how they'll have joy of a wise child? Huh? What did he say the angels would do every time a sinner repent? So if a sinner repented, what would that mean they would have accomplished? Being born again, being born of Elohim. What did Yahushua tell you in John 16? He said when a woman is going through her birth pains, that she's sorrowful. But when once this man-child is born, she remember her pain no more. Come over here to John chapter 16 for that. No. 16 and 20. Okay. 16 and 20, the book of John. Truly, truly, I say unto you that you shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice. You shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned into joy. A woman, when she is in travail, has sorrow, because her hour is come. But as soon as she's delivered of the child, she remember no more the anguish, but for joy that a man is born into the world. And you now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no man take from you. Now come back to Proverbs 23. He said, the father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice. And he that beget a wise child shall have joy of him. Let's look at those words down, right? Let's just take a look. Let's just gain some understanding. The first thing that we see for rejoice here is the word hell, which is to rejoice or to be glad. You just have Gamal, Yah, and Lamad. Now, of course, for joy here, what do you have? You have Samah, to be glad, to cause to rejoice and to make glad. Because at the end of the day, what did we mention last night? That Yahuwah has no pleasure in what? The death of him that died. And he said, all the angels in heaven rejoice when a sinner repents. Because if you're born to Elohim, how does that make you a wise child if you're born to Elohim? Huh? Does anyone remember what Job 28:28 tells us? Job 28:28 tells us that the fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom, and all those that have understanding depart from evil. You know what I'm saying? See, when you have wisdom, wisdom is your skill. So if he's birthed a wise child, and he's birthed a child knows the difference between right and wrong. He knows a child has allowed discipline or correction to enter into his heart, and therefore he will be exercised by the peaceable fruits of righteousness, and it begin to attain unto everlasting life. Now, we didn't read it in Hebrews 12. I think we did read it. He said, everyone that is chastened, and he does what? He deals with you as he deals with a son. For you, in order to be chastened, that's how you're born of him. If you're not chastened, how can you be born of him? We just read in Psalm 94 that what? Blessed is he whom you chasten out of your law. So if he disciplines you, corrects you according to his word, then he's going to rejoice because I have a wise child. He's not rejoicing over no sinner. He's not rejoicing because you know you're an Israelite. That doesn't do anything for it. Let's continue. Verse 25 of Proverbs 23. Your father and your mother shall be glad. She that bare you shall rejoice. Now, how can we get that? Who's the woman who birthed you? Jerusalem. Why is she rejoicing? Because he states how the land will rejoice. Remember, we read in Ezekiel 36, he was talking to the land. And he told the land, I'm bringing people back in here. And I'm going to do this for you, and do that for you, and do this for you. For the woman who birthed you, it takes us back to what we read in Psalms 137. Let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth if I forget Jerusalem above my chief joy. He told you when you flee in Jeremiah 51 to let Jerusalem come into your mind. He said that we seek a city where the builder and the maker and the foundation is Elohim. And that when we have a city where our Elohim is not ashamed to be called our Elohim. Verse 26 of Proverbs 23. My son, give your heart and let your eyes observe my ways. For a whore is a deep pit, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. She also lie in wait as for a prey and increase the transgressors among men. See, that's also very important. While it is needful, one, to teach your daughter how to be a wife, and two, for your son to know a raggedy, bald-headed slut when he see one and leave that stinking whore alone. Do you know what I'm saying? And see, on that man, see, a woman you can tell the baby like this here, right? Come over here to Proverbs 5 real quick. You better leave them stupid hoes alone. Tell your son, you love that woman, you help her heal. Ho, you heal on your own. You heal on your own. That ain't my job. Because they say she going to increase the transgressions amongst men. Remember that? That's to be a treacherous, to be a rebel. How many hoes that y'all know that when you look at their conduct teaches men to do things they know they ought not by their influence. Let me get that word for transgressors amongst men for you real quick. I just want you to think about it now. Now the word for increase is yasab. That's to increase, to do again, or to join oneself, or to be added to. Now think about that. It says that she lie in wait as for a prey and joins herself to the rebellion of men. Transgressors here is for God, deceitfully, offend, faithlessly. She ain't got no faith. Now, when you think about it, how many men been influenced by whores to do things that they know are being joined to follow? See, that's what happens when you don't know. See, I told you, some of y'all that, you know what I mean? You know, we heal our men, and that's full. It's foolishness. It's nonsense. Real live bovine excrement. Because ain't no woman out here in the history of mankind killed no man. But you got a lot of women out here in this world, they believe that though. I'm tired of dealing with these broken men. Oh, you broken. That's why you picked him. Because if you wasn't broken, he wouldn't have did nothing for you. He wouldn't have done nothing for you. You just as broke as he is. You know what I'm talking about? But at the end of the day, can a man heal a broken woman? I think not. Because if she's broken, guess what she gonna do? She gonna break you over time. She gonna break you over time. How's she gonna break you? Because she's gonna cause you to do things that you know that you ought not do to please. And how do we know this? Because the whores got Solomon, right or wrong. Them whores got Solomon. Turned his heart right on away. That's why he tell you, don't you fool with them hoes. Solomon can tell you why not to fool with them hoes. He knows from personal experience. Don't you fool with them hoes. Them hoes crazy. Them hoes get you. See, I know that don't make a modern woman feel good, but who cares? What they got to do with us? Where I'm finna go at, man? Proverbs 5. That's why I was doing. Proverbs 5. I'm in chapter 3. That's why I'm like, yo, this is not what I need to say. 5. 5 and 1, I suppose. We went over chapter 5 not too long ago. Let me say a whore deep pit. She increased the transgressors amongst men. That's what she do. How many hoes you know that cause nigga to deal treacherously in a fin? I tell you, I used to ask dudes, why you smoke crack? And they say, a woman messing with a prostitute hoe too. I done white dudes say they started smoking crack, messing with a prostitute. Look at her. She done caused you to offend. You done fell in a deep pit. Your life been in a downward spiral ever since. No, a lot of them don't lose no teeth. They still keep their teeth. They lose their bank account. A lot of dudes on the guy messing with hoes, they take their whole life savings. A lot of niggas done put a bullet in their brain behind the hoe. Some niggas done killed behind the hoe, sitting in the tank. And guess what that hoe doing? Pop, lock, and drop. On the next nigga. He ended up beating his meat. Think about it. He gonna write me this week, bro. I know she is. That hoe ain't right. That's why she was messing with that other nigga. You know what I'm saying? She ain't respected. Nevertheless, Proverbs 5 and 1. My son, attend unto my wisdom. By your ear to my understanding. Look what he's telling his son to do. So how can you tell if you don't gain the wisdom and understanding of Yahuwah, you can't tell your son how to do that. He said that you may regard discretion and that your lips may keep knowledge. Now, I'll pull discretion out for you one time. Bring it to your remembrance what he say discretion is, what it means in this verse. Notice that he say that you might regard discretion. Regard here is shamar, which means that you already know what that is. But discretion here is your purpose, your device, your plan, and your plot. Mizma. So he wants you to understand the what we just read basically in Ephesians 5. That you to understand what the will of the Lord is. Son, I need you to understand what it is, son. I need you to understand my wisdom and my understanding so you know what the will of Yahuwah is. Because if you don't, you're going to get God out here. Let's continue. For the lips of the strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But her end is bitter as warm wood and sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, and her steps take hold of hell. He said, leave them hoes alone, son. Now, who is this whore? On the spiritual level, who calls you to be a don't deal with a wine bibber? Who's a deep pitch? Who increased the transgressors of men? That whore of Babylon, who got that cup that caused all the nations to drink, the cup of her fornication, which is what you see in the earth right now. You've been drinking liberalism, you know what I'm talking about? All manner of satanic teachings and thought processes that cause your son to fall in a deep pitch, and she's increasing the transgressors amongst men. It's only going to get worse when she actually comes back into the fullness of her power, because surely this is a Babylonian thought process across the world, which is really an Egyptian thought process, but that's neither here nor there. Listen what he said, right? Verse 6, he says, lest you should ponder the path of life, for ways are movable that you cannot know them. Now let's look at that verse. She said, lest you should ponder the path of life. When we look at ponder, it's palas, to weigh or to make a balance. We just talked about that the other day, right? So you need to have a just what? Weight and balance. You don't have a just weight and a just balance or good judgment, then you can't ponder the path of life. Understand that her ways are movable. Movable is nuah, which just means they will cause you to wander, to shake, or to totter. What did the Apostle James say about a double-minded man? He's unstable. So when you're dealing with a whore, guess what she's going to make you? Unstable. This is how she causes you to increase the transgression. And what are we supposed to be built on? A rock. So when the winds come and the rain come, guess what don't happen? You're not moved. This is why Solomon said that I find more bitter than death the woman. Her hearts are like snares and nets, her hand is bad. But he said, but he that please Elohim will escape from her. But the sinner will be taken by her. And why will the sinner be taken by her? Because he didn't listen to his dad. That's how you're going to get taken by Babylon. That's how on the natural level you get taken by a whore, because you don't listen. Because if you please Elohim, he'd be like this here, right? Now, he used these women against Samson because this was Yahuwah's way of taking the people down. Do you notice how he delivered Samson from a couple bald-headed hoes a couple times before he let him settle in with Delilah? And he only let him settle in with Delilah because I wanted to kill all the Philistines. He didn't really have nothing to do with her. I'm just using her for this purpose. But he definitely let him escape out the hand of a couple whores. You know what I'm saying? Oh, wicked woman, who will let you slide right on by the way if you please him. If you don't please him, that hoe gonna lock you in. And a lot of women talking about you a virtuous woman. No, you ain't hoe. Use that wicked one. That way you got that wicked nigga. He a sinner. That's why you got it. He let him stay right there. She said, my life is hard, and I don't know why. Verse 7. He said, hear now, therefore, O you sons, depart you not from the words of my mouth. Remove your way far from her, and come not near the door of her house. Again, what we told you last night. Who would tell you to come heal a whore? Listen to what he said again, right? Remove your way far from her. Get away from her, and don't even knock on her door. So all that simp stuff these niggas be out here talking about, we need to heal all women and this, that, and the third. Kill her with the word. You ain't got to marry her if she that messed up. If she that messed up, let her get that word. You leave that hoe alone. But he told you, what did he just tell you to do in verse 7? Hear me now, therefore, O you sons, and depart not from the way. He said, don't you get from what I say. Now, what sons were reported in the book of Jeremiah? Because they listened to their dad. Because they told them, he said, yeah, you know what? We ain't doing this here. Our daddy told him not to do that there. He said, you know what? I'm going to bless you with this right here because you listen to your dad. So you have to look at that in the same token of you dealing with whether you male or female. You can't depart from the person who birthed you. Yahushua birthed you. And what did he say the Ruach would do? Bring all things to your remembrance what he taught you. So if he's told you to do certain things, you ain't got no business departing from what he told you. But you know why he's able to do that? Because he nurtured you. And we're going to get to that point. And that's what it deals with the men. You can't get upset with your wife if she ain't did this, that, and the third. You can't get upset with your sons or your daughters if they ain't did this, that, and the third, and you have not instructed them or you haven't nurtured them. That would be your fault. See, that's why Yahuwah praises his mighty name. That's why Yahuwah can judge anybody he wants, because you can't say that I ain't told you. You heard it. You rejected it. Let's continue. Listen what he said. Lest you give your honor unto others and your years unto the cruel. Let strangers be filled with your wealth and your labors be in the house of a stranger. And you mourn at the last when your flesh and body are consumed. I guess you know what that is. That's the worm with a lake where the worm dies not and the fire shall not be quenched. Now, why is your flesh and body consumed? Because you're going to look what he say and say, now how I have hated instruction and despise, and my heart despised reproof. And what did we read in Proverbs 23? What did he tell you to apply your heart to? Instruction. He said, let your heart receive discipline, chastening, and correction. And he said, you're going to get burned because you despise it. I'm going to read that again and say, how have I hated instruction? And my heart despised reproof. Listen to what he said. And I have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined my ear to them that instructed me. You know what I'm saying? So this is how this whore is able to increase the transgressors amongst men. Because what's all that stuff we read in Proverbs 23 before that? Into that whore is a deep pitch. Son, listen, hearken to what I say. I take joy in that him that's birthed me, because you understand the wisdom and understanding that I'm giving to you for you to follow me. You understand? Come over here to Ephesians 5 now. 5 and 25. 5 and 22, actually. 5 and 22. Ephesians 5 and 22. So the key component of what we see in Proverbs 23, and all this is still to get polished after the semblance of the palace, or to be cut after the likeness of the temple or the sanctuary or Yahushua. And he was able to do this because he listened. What did he say in John 12, right? About verse 49. He said, my Father has given me what? A commandment. What I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his commandment is life everlasting. So when you understand that your Father has given you an instruction, a directive, a command, a statute, an ordinance on what you should do, you're not going to depart from that. That's why he said, well, please. The book tells you a foolish son do what? Bring grief to his father. A son who don't listen, he said, that just make you sad. Just make you sad. This nigga don't listen. And again, we know what Torah said, you're supposed to teach the sons. The father's supposed to teach the sons. So let's continue. Ephesians 5 and 22. 5, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord. The husband is the head of the wife, even as a Mashiach is the head of the body, and he's the savior of the body. Therefore, as the body is subject unto Mashiach, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. And you're just going to have to deal with that. You should be subjected to your husband in all things, not the things you feel like you should be subject to him to, not the things that you didn't agree with, but in everything. Period. Because at the end of the day, how you going to be joined to the Lord and then you feel like I'm not going to be subject to this? I don't agree with this, so I'm not going to be under that. You going to hell. And I ain't talking about no woman either. I'm talking about men and women. How you going to look the Lord in the face and say, I'm not going to be subject to everything that you say? Are we not supposed to be subject to everything that he say? Or just the things you agree with? Just the things that you like? When he's telling the woman, that's why it goes back to what we read in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1 last night. If he's without the word, then win him without the word, so that he can see your task and Kadash conduct, and that he might sit back and say, I'm a fool. Because at the end of the day, it don't matter what you agree with, don't matter what you don't like. That's not the will of Yahuwah, because you're supposed to be showing the example of him unto us. Because we already know your forefathers didn't agree with everything Yahuwah said, right or wrong. Because that's why they was out there having sex with dogs and goats and things of that nature, because he told you not to do it. That's why they were out there lined up, laying in front of their neighbor's wife, trying to sleep with another man's wife. They didn't care about it. I got a problem. I don't do it. Ain't no picking and choosing, because you have to look at the full ramification of what you're showing him. You're showing him you're not subject to me, because I'm the one who told you to be subject to him. I told you that in Genesis chapter 3. That's what I told you to do. And why did I tell you to do that? Because you had an instruction and you chose to rebel against it. So now you have to be subject to this person. Is what it is. But truth be told, in juxtaposition to the man, that's a small thing. Because the man got most of, see, the average woman look, I got to listen to this nigga. But the stuff that he don't do, oh, he got to answer for that. You know what I'm saying? Because all you got to do is just be subject to him, love your husband, love your children, and guide the house. But he has greater responsibilities than you have. I know the world has told you taking care of children is a greater responsibility than what the man does. And it's a massive responsibility. It's not greater than what the Lord laid in his charge. Because what's the first thing, what are the first curses that he told Adam he had to do? What did he say Adam had to do? Huh? He had to till the earth by the sweat of his brow to the day that he died. And why? Because since you want to serve your wife by listening to her, oh, you're going to serve her. You're going to serve her by your back. And not only that, you're going to have to serve her in other ways, which, of course, you know, is a similitude of the Lord, for you to really understand the love that he has towards his wife. Because at the end of the day, what that man got to do is imperative. Because what did we read last night in Genesis 18? What did he say Abraham did? Say, I know he'll teach his household what? Justice and judgment in the way of Yahuwah. A woman can't do that. And at the end of the day, that responsibility is greater than the responsibility of feeding and changing diapers and bathing children. Because this can dictate everything that occurs with every individual in his house. That is a greater responsibility. Because if he negates that responsibility, if he does not take that responsibility seriously, it can condemn everybody in the house. You know what I'm saying? See, we don't look at that in that regard because you don't really realize the weight that's on his shoulders. Because if Yahushua was not obedient to his father in regard of ministering to his wife and being a ransom to her and nurturing her and cherishing her and honoring her, then what would have happened to his wife? She would have perished because she broke that covenant. Therefore, she would have been estranged from Elohim. She would have stayed in her sins, and she could have never been returned back to her husband and back to dwell with him and back to being in his good graces. That's major when you look at it in the grand scope. But let's continue. Listen what he said. Husbands, love your wives, even as Mashiach also loved the body and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself in a esteemed house, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be kadosh without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that love his wife, love himself. Now, I mentioned that before, right? If you love your wife, then you're going to treat your wife in the same fashion that you would want somebody to treat you, or how you treat yourself. If you disrespect your wife, then that's how you feel about yourself. Because what did we mention before? Your wife is what? A reflection of you, and vice versa. So how you gonna treat your wife based on how you feel about yourself? If that's how you feel about yourself, if you feel like you can belittle her, talk down to her, that's how you feel about yourself. You have insignificance, insecurity, and inferiority complexes within yourself. That's why you do her like that. Now, of course, we know on the reverse side with more women, y'all don't know that. That belittling and talking down to a man, he's not going to take that. That's disrespect. See, what women consider to be respect and what men consider to be respect is two different things. You know what I'm saying? And that's where you got to understand men and women don't think the same. What you think is minuscule to you as a woman is not minuscule to him as a man, and vice versa. There's some things that a man look at that this is insignificant, but it's not insignificant to her based on how her mind works. So that's where understanding and compassion come in at. Instead of worrying about yourself, try to understand, get this person to understand how your mind works. Really, it's the man's responsibility to understand how his woman mind works and women mind work in general. That way you don't get frustrated. Because what did we mention last night? He said he know our frame, right? But we go what? Dust. So that means you would take the time to understand this woman so you can be able to deal with her in a merciful and compassionate manner. Do you know what I'm saying? Not just feel like all she got to do is learn me and that's it. That's not how that works. Because guess what he just said? He said he knows the thoughts of man of vanity. And we know for the most part, the thoughts of the average woman is folly. Especially when we're dealing in this time period that we live in, because they're not taught anything. You know what I'm saying? Y'all already know. Did you have a strong male figure to teach you, son? So then for your ability for your mind not to drift off in the folly, it's going to be less likely than somebody who did. As a man, you have to understand that, and you can't hold that against her unless you taught her properly, and then that's a problem. Listen what he say, for no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourish and cherish it, even as the Lord the body. Who remembers what that Greek word for nourishment? Who remembers what it means? Y'all remember what that Greek word for nourish means? Definition. Raise up, train up, bring to maturity. That's what that word means. I'm going to read you all the definitions. That's what it means. That Greek word is ektrifo, to nourish up, to maturity, to nurture, to bring up. Go to Proverbs 22:6. Proverbs 22:6. Listen what it says. Train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. Now let's get this word for train. And you know what that word for train is? It's kanak. Do you remember where we just seen that word kanak at? Do y'all remember what we just seen that word knock at? Just talked about it last week. It's the shortened version of another word. Of course, the definition is to train, to dedicate, to inaugurate, to train up. Where we just seen that word kanak at? And it's ka, noon, and ka. Where we just seen that word kanak at? Did we not just see that in the shortened version of Hanukkah, or Hanukkah, or how you want to say that? Well, listen what it says, right? That is to train or to bring up. And this is the Hebrew equivalent for that Greek word for nourish. So what is this a man's duty to do? It's your duty to train up this woman and to teach her certain things. Because if you teach it to her, then guess what she won't do? She won't depart from it. Now, he just said, that's your job. That's your job, to train her. To train her according to the word. Because he said, as the Lord nourished and cherished his wife. And that's what it said. Now, can we look at what this man was sitting around teaching his wife? Let's look and see what he did. Let's take a look at Matthew 7. That's mine. We'll start right there. Actually, Matthew 5. We'll start right there. Matthew 5. 5 and 1. We'll start it right there. And we'll move around it. As a man, that's your response. Remember what Paul said in Corinthians, if the wife have a question, what he told her to do? At home. Now, where were they at when he was giving them this directive? They were at a synagogue. So what does that mean? As the man, you coming to learn the word. If this woman got a question, she's supposed to get that training or that nourishment from you. Not sit around and ask this man over here or ask this man over there. Or like you see what women like to do on the internet. You know what I'm talking about? On 1,000 different statuses. Where your nigga at? Matter of fact, why do you not even feel comfortable enough to go to this man to ask him questions about your God? Matthew chapter 5 and verse 1. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain. And when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying. So now we'll look at some of the things that he taught them. Because this is how he's training his wife right here, right? According to what Paul just said to us, correct? Which, of course, that takes us back to what Adam did with his wife. Did he not teach Eve? So regardless if she obeyed or not, he still taught her, did he not? So now he said that blessed if you're mourn, because you'll be comforted. Blessed if you're humble, because you will inherit. Blessed when you hunger and thirst for righteousness, because you'll get it. Blessed when you're being merciful, because you will obtain it. When your heart's pure, you'll see Elohim. When you're a peacemaker, you'll be called a son of Elohim. And blessed when you're persecuted for righteousness' sake. Let's look at some of the other things that he taught them. Let's just move along in chapter 5. Let's see what we can see. One of the first things he taught you, beginning at verse 23, is that instead of dropping a gift off at the altar, to reconcile with your brother first. So what did he teach you? He taught you what's in Leviticus 19, to not avenge or have any, what's the word I'm looking for? Grudge against your neighbor. These are things that you're supposed to sit down with your wife and teach them this. It's not enough to just be like, oh, we get the word on the Sabbath and that's enough. You're not doing your job at that point. Do you not think that Yahuwah is not going to cause you to answer for that? Because let's ask this certain question right here. What did we read last night? That's why we read it. In 1 Corinthians 9, right? What did Paul say about preaching the gospel? Who recalls what Paul said about preaching the gospel? That's why I read it, because I was setting this up to get us here. Y'all remember what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 9? Y'all don't nobody remember? Go over here to 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians 9 and 16. 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 16. He say, for though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to esteem of, for necessity is laid upon me. Woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me. What did he say? Why he had to preach it? Because what was laid on it? A necessity. Let's look at the Greek word for necessity here. The Greek word for necessity here is anarcha, necessity imposed either by circumstances or by law of duty regarding to one's advantage. So when you say a necessity or duty gained by one's advantage, what comes to mind for you according to the law? He say that according to one's advantage, he has to do this. So according to the law and the things that we discussed last night and tonight and Wednesday, how does that pertain to a man who has to nourish his wife or train her up or bring her to maturity? What is the advantage that the man has over the woman? No. I'm talking about what advantage does a husband have over his wife? No, the point I'm looking for is what's in Genesis chapter 3, right? He said that he will have what? Rule over you. So that's the advantage that the man has over the woman. You have dominion and rule. So by product of having that dominion and rule, necessity is laid upon you to nurture and train this woman up. That's laid at your charge. That's your responsibility. Meaning that what he's stating coincides with the law. Because what did he instruct in Deuteronomy that you're supposed to do with the children's children? To teach them. And that's what he told them in the law. Why is that he telling them that? Because of the advantage that the man has dominion over the woman and her desire is to her husband. So therefore, when a man does not train up his household and teach his household, he would be in transgression, which is a greater responsibility. Because the desire to nourish them would be coincide with Yahuwah's desire to nourish you right or wrong. Because what did he tell you in Psalms 81 to be specific? Open your mouth wide and he'll do what? Fill it. He just said, blessed are those that hunger and thirst after righteousness, they'll be filled. Your wife might be thirsting and hungering for the word. She can't get a drop from it. You got around here with a rib touching her back. You know what I'm saying? And whose fault is that? That's your fault. Because imagine if the Lord said, you know what? I'm going to go over here and do this here. I ain't preaching today. Just imagine if he did that. Though. I ain't preaching today. Lord, I got a question. You answer this for me? No, I'm tired. I'm finna go to sleep. That's the greatness of the responsibility. This is how the daughters get to be cut after the similitude of the temple, because the man is cut after the similitude of the temple. And therefore, he instructs her and trains her so she can be cut after the similitude of the temple. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 5. Other things that we see the Lord teaching us in Matthew 5. He told you not to make any oaths. Why? Because what did Solomon tell you not to do? Don't make no oaths if you're not going to keep it. He told you not to sleep with another man's wife. Matter of fact, he took it a step further and told you don't lust after her in the heart, lest you be like David. He told you if your eye offends you to pluck it out, or to control yourself, or to remove yourself from these situations and circumstances. He told you to be merciful unto your enemies and to be perfect, and your Father in heaven is perfect. He told you not to do good deeds in front of men that you might be seen. He told you not to fast so men might know. He told you not to lay your treasure up in heaven, and he told you to put your trust in Yahuwah. These are all the things that he did to train his wife up. And we could go on for days with that. But I think the point is understood. That you, because anyway, he said, hold on, let me read Ephesians 5 again. Let's just read it one more time in that particular verse. 5:28. So men ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He that love his wife love himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourish and cherish it, even as the Lord the body. So guess what? What does the law say about our flesh between a man and a woman? What did the law say about that? What was Adam's proclamation when Eve was made? And he said, this is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones. When the people came to David, they said the same thing. Be flesh of your flesh, bone of your bones. That means you of me. That's why he said no man ever yet hated his own flesh, because you would look at this woman the same way that Adam looked at his wife. Notice the next thing that he said, that to nourish and cherish it, even as the Lord did his. So when you understand that, we were flesh of Yahushua, because he said we're all members of his body. So when you look at that, he had compassion unto his wife, and he instructed her, and he trained her up, and he honored her, because he already knew her frame is but dust. His thoughts are but vanity. It's my duty to train them up. When I train them up, they're not going to depart. You know what I'm saying? But if we just look at it, I've just told y'all this many times, your responsibility extends past paying bills. It extends past that. You have to have a complete three-dimensional thought process to understand you're supposed to be leaving an inheritance to your son's sons. And it ain't even got to be the inheritance of material wealth. It needs to be the inheritance of the faith of Yahuwah. Let's go to Deuteronomy 13, I believe. That's what I mean. It might be Deuteronomy 10. Deuteronomy 10. It's definitely Deuteronomy 13. Deuteronomy 11. Deuteronomy 11. 11 and 18. We're bringing the pad one more time. Deuteronomy 11 and 18. Deuteronomy 11 and 18. And it says, therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and your soul, and bind them upon a sign upon your hand, that they may be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them your sons, speaking to them when you sit in the house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. Now, just to bring to your remembrance real quickly, where's that? How is that related to the gospel? Y'all should know that just real quickly, and we'll move on. Did not Yahushua teach you in the temple? Did he not when he walked through the cities? According to Luke 13, did he not teach you when he lied down, when he went and preached to the spirits in prison? Did he not teach you when he resurrected from the dead? So there's no excuse for a man not nurturing his wife, because the Lord did it on every cut and corner. And you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, that your days may be fulfilled, that your days may be multiplied in the days of your sons in the land which you will swear unto your fathers to give them as the days of heaven upon the earth. Because how else will the sons be able to do it if the father don't give it to them? How can your son be able to be able to avoid the strange woman if you ain't even took the time to teach her? How can your wife end up being this virtuous woman if you know her father didn't teach her to fear Yahuwah? Then how is she gonna know it? You think just because, oh, she show up on the Sabbath, bro, I'm gonna marry her. Okay, now you done married her, so you think it stops? A sister asked this question. She said, how come health is considered a lifestyle and not a state of being? Do y'all know what it means? Y'all, what's the difference between a lifestyle and a state of being? What you think? What you think the difference between a lifestyle and a state? Y'all know? Does anybody have anything they'd like to offer between the difference between a lifestyle and a state of being? Understandably so. I mean, I knew what it meant, but then I gave her the exact definition, so she wouldn't be able to wiggle her way out of that. Well, not that, just to have her fully informed. But a state of being is a state basically of emotion, of how you feel right then. You could be in a state of being healthy, but not want to eat cookies and cakes. But a lifestyle is something that you do consistently, with a dedicated purpose. Because that's how, like, the way we serve Yahuwah, that's the lifestyle. See, a state of being with some people in the word, like he said, you know, the cares, affairs of this life, it took off the world. Because that's how I felt right then. See, a lifestyle is something you do consistent. Like, you know how people say fitness is a lifestyle? Because you have to make a commitment to living a particular type of way and everything that relates to that particular type of life. It's not a state of being, because once it says state of being, it already telling you that this is something that is what? Temporary. It's a temporary state. You know what I'm saying? See, we come into things and we come things that temporary because you're not looking at it to make a lifestyle. You have to make it a lifestyle. If you say I'm committed to serving Yahuwah, then you have to be committed to that lifestyle in its totality. And this man has shown you that one of your responsibilities as a man in this totality is to train your wife. The law already told you you're supposed to train your son. So when you don't do that, you're really frustrated with yourself when your wife don't do what you desire. Your children don't do the things that you desire. It's really a reflection of yourself because you haven't fulfilled your duty that Yah has given you by advantage because you come from the son, because you're a son of Adam. But hallelujah for Yahushua the word. Bless everybody out of the house in Yahuwah name of Yahushua. I appreciate your time. Hopefully understanding was gained. Again, now, if y'all got sons, man, teach your son, leave them hoes alone, man. Don't let your son go out like that. Anybody ever told y'all to leave hoes alone when y'all were young men? How many of you listen? Standing looking, no, I ain't listening. Shoot, that whole busting and I knocked her down. I understand, because guess what? Ain't too many young men gonna turn down no free butt. You know what I'm saying? Into you done turned you down some too? You're a good man. I'd have turned down plenty, baby. I'm straight. I'm straight. I'm good. I always used to feel like this here, boy. If it was too easy, I'm scared. I don't want this here. There's something wrong with it. You know what I'm talking about? She might got the AIDS. It's too easy. You ain't have to do nothing for it. You just seen me and you were ready to give it. I don't want that. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? But teacher, I ain't lying. Shoot. You don't realize, shoot. The average dude, if he got some sense, and a woman like this here, like he ain't got to do nothing, like, come on, nigga scared. There's something wrong with this. It's a defect. You know what I'm talking about? But blessings to everybody out of the house in the name of Yahushua, man. Everybody just keep their mind rooted, set, and strengthened in the faith of Yahuwah. Let ourselves conform to his image. Yahuwah willing, we'll pick it up on the next one and keep it rolling. But until that time, I bid you adieu.